Alright everyone, now we're going to go over the tier list for Otherworld Battle, and I've already constructed the list in its entirety so you guys can see everyone, and I'm gonna go over as many examples as I can as I explain why the meta are where they are and why they're placed in these categories. So there's obviously meta tier, and they go in order based on how often or not they are debuffed, sub meta, niche meta, and useful tier. And then there's last resort tier. Supports aren't generally used because supports are basically just dummies going out there to die immediately. So it's important for Otherworld Battle to put as many meta as you can and to prioritize their defense. Conquest builds are generally recommended for a lot of these characters. You could go with some offensive builds on specific tunes, and I'm going to go over some of these tunes. I think that Logan, Adam, Ghost Rider, and Madeline Pryor are debuffed the least amount, and they offer the most amount in terms of meta capability and utility. Otherworld Battle debuffs and buffs are applied, and they could be applied to mutants or heroes or blasts or any kind of type. It's pretty random. Logan, he's a great starter, and he one-shots basically the entire board so long as he doesn't get interrupted, and there's a trick to him not getting interrupted. Adam, he could be used with versatility in many different places. He could be put up front or in last place. So when I go over skills with range, I'm going to showcase where I recommend putting these tunes in, because positioning really matters in this game mode. Ghost Rider is kind of similar to Logan. I think they both need to be put up front, and they both have one-shot capability. You want to make sure that they execute as many times as possible before the 12 seconds of debuff removal are up. Madeline Pryor is kind of like a mix between Logan and Adam. She has a skill from range. She removes all buffs from the target like Adam, has ignore iframe, and she's somewhat of a debuff master as well. Ghost Rider is a debuff master. These two are not debuff masters, but they do have some debuffs. Madeline Pryor I recommend putting in like 4th to 5th spot, because she's definitely got the range on her skill, and she has one-shot potential even with Conquest or the build that I have on her, which is Energy. So some of these tunes have Incapacitation, which is like a pseudo removal of all buffs, and then there's characters like Adam who have removal of all buffs flat out, and like Null or Sentry. Silver Surfer, I think he's debuffed quite often, but he's still meta in this game mode. He could be paired with Agent Venom in some cases. Now, here's the thing with these three. The reason why they're technically considered meta is because they're almost like prerequisites. So in Vibranium and Challenger, these guys are debuffed almost all the time. You could still use Sentry and Kang while they're debuffed, because they're debuff masters. They remove all buffs, they debuff trap, and they have a revive. So even if they die right away, no matter what, they could still execute the second time and help your other meta execute as well. Null, while he still has one-shot ability sometimes, he's the character that people will use debuffed the least out of these three. So that's why I put him last here, and it's another reason why I sometimes put Null in the overrated category, because Null is perfect in game modes like AC, but very imperfect in game modes like TBA and Otherworld Battle. Now we're going on to the sub-meta, and these guys are basically considered like almost as good as this bracket because of just how much these meta get debuffed throughout the season. These guys get debuffed as well, but way less frequently. Apocalypse is the king of the sub-meta in this game mode for sure. And the reason why is because he offers somewhat of what Shala or like Wasp offers, but with mutants. And he's also meta because he has the revive, and it could be 3-star. The revive could be a 3-star artifact and he will still be meta. He's a debuff master. He does a lot of damage. He has CTB versatility, and he does have some range as well. He's got the whole package to be like here in this mode, but I'll stick him here. He could still get caught out by, you know, someone like Logan debuffed. You could use Logan debuffed, or someone like Ghost Rider, or someone like Pryor. So he has very visible counters, but he's still like the king of this category easily. And Deadpool is right alongside him, because Deadpool with the full artifact, he does have CTB versatility. Like, you could put Conquest on him, you could put Destruction on him, you could put Energy on him, you could put Greed on him, and he'll perform generally the same. I think that both of these characters need to be like in the 4th or the 5th spot respectively, but Apocalypse can go in like a far corner like Adam or like Pryor, and then Deadpool can go in like a shorter corner because Deadpool doesn't have a lot of range on his skill. Deadpool needs to get hit, so he needs to be in a closer range. Strife's got range, so he could be put from distance. Since he's immortal, he could be first or he could be last. I think that putting him third is not the best idea, even though he does have support utility of debuff removal like Shala Ball, but he's more of like a meta, so he does a lot of DPS with Greed, or he does really good tankiness with Conquest. Because he's new, he's debuffed the least out of this category. I think that Magic, she's good in the first spot or possibly the 3rd spot. I don't think that she's good last, and I think without her full arty, like her artifact, I think that she is very hit and miss. You got to make sure that her counters pop off, because if she gets interrupted once or twice, she may not get the kill that you want, and she may be under par. When her build is optimal, she's definitely sub-meta in this category, especially with the Conquest where she could tank. Shala Ball is one of the best debuff removal supports, and she's a great tanker. Her DPS is on the low side, and her reflect is also kind of on the low side. I think that she's good in most positions because she's really just a debuff removal support. Since the addition of Strife, I think that Strife is just an overall better option because he offers damage. But Shala Ball, when she's not debuffed and like Wasp is debuffed, she's a go-to. And she's picked quite often in this game mode. But Mephisto, this is actually his best game mode. I think that Mephisto goes last. He has range, and he could sweep the board with his one skill. You could put him with anything damage related. Don't give him a Conquest. He's damage only. So Energy, Judgment, or Rage is fine. Carnage, I think that Carnage is similar to like Logan or Ghost Rider. He needs to be put first or last. His best skill has delay. If you give him egg, his damage is low. He gets interrupted quite frequently. He's almost in this category, in the niche meta category, but when everybody's debuffed and Agent Venom is able to be paired, then you could pick the symbiote team and Carnage will do way better in that situation. Doom is the king of the niche meta. When everybody is debuffed, like mutants are debuffed and the meta is debuffed, that's where he shines, and he's good in pretty much any placement, and he has range. But the problem with him is that if you put him too far away, he doesn't hit, he just stands around. It's better to put him like in a third or a fourth spot in a shorter corner rather than a farther one. If just mutants are not debuffed, he doesn't get picked. Like even Jean Grey gets picked over him oftentimes because of damage. Doom is a really good tanker. This is also arguably his best game mode right now, so take full advantage of using Doom here. Jean Grey, she's definitely, this is also her best game mode because she offers large area of effect, she debuff traps, and she does a lot of damage. The problem is that she gets reflected very easily, so like Emma Frost, Shala, and like Silver Surfer just knock her out of the park. These two are not debuffed often. Take full advantage of these two in this game mode. Captain America, I think that Captain America needs a couple of supports around him, like Jeff. He's definitely in this category of niche meta because he has one-shot ability that could come into effect later in the match, and he has some of the best tanking ability. He has Thanos level defense, or like better, just like Strife as well. So, and he has his own debuff removal, so he could be used with Jeff, or he doesn't even have to have debuff removal, and he can do well just when everybody's debuffed though. Same with Emma Frost. If a lot of different characters are debuffed, she can do well. It's just her counter is speeds. Like Black Widow and Quicksilver and like Spider-Man knock her out of the park. It's better when mutants are buffed for Otherworld battle buffs. She is a decent meta here. You know, like Captain America, Emma Frost, Shala Ball, Magic, Strife, these two, and Madeline Pryor and Silver Surfer. They all need Brilliant Conquest. The only alternative to Brilliant Conquest is Mighty Conquest, which Mighty Conquest is never going to work like on a serious competitive level. Or if a certain amount of characters are debuffed and you have like alternatives like mine. But of course my alternatives come with a certain level of risk. Thanos is used. This is arguably his best game mode because I think he's fallen a lot and people complain about how bad he is and how much he needs a rework. He's a decent tanker. He's good when he's last. He does offer some one-shot potential. Also, Emma Frost is better when she's first. Captain America is also better when he's first. He doesn't have range either. Thanos kind of has range, but it's similar to Sentry Kang or Null, where their first skill, well, his first skill or their second skill can be used from range, but they creep in at very close range. Destroyer is actually quite useful, especially when he's starting and he has debuff removal. He's not really good when he's last, or maybe he's okay when he's third, because he's kind of in like the support tanking category. He tanks very well in the initial stages of Otherworld battle. Black Widow is another character that probably needs Conquest because she also relies on the tankiness combined with Agent Venom. I think they're kind of like a package deal. Agent Venom is super reliant on these characters functioning, and they both need Conquest, like at Brilliant. Black Widow could use her from some fair distance, but she creeps in close range. Black Widow is better when she's first. I see Speed sometimes going last, and I just don't recommend Speeds going last because they're just too susceptible to dying too early, and they need to get their first initial one-shot ignore iframe down as quickly as possible, because after that they can survive in between plenty of debuff removal. But if they get interrupted, they just die too quickly. Agent Venom's just a support, but he's the best support for symbiotes. And Spider-Man, I think Spider-Man is just, he's okay when he hits, but when he doesn't hit, he's too slow. Iframes are like incomplete with this uniform, despite him having more damage with this uniform. It's kind of like hit or miss, but with Brilliant Conquest they can be pretty solid. Rachel Summers is pretty good. Her Awaken skill is very, very strong, and she's almost guaranteed to execute it. She could be used with anything damage related, and you can even give her like a regen, just so long as it's brilliant to use as a tactical plant. You could also put like brilliant regen on like Spider-Man, Black Widow, Destroyer, Emma Frost, Captain America. You can put brilliant regen on these characters as a tactical plant, like Hela as well, Deadpool. But like the CTP has to be brilliant. If it's not brilliant, it's terrible. Rachel Summers, she should definitely be put like 4th or 5th spot, or even like 3rd spot, because she could take down the board with that Awaken skill. Fantastic Four are built for Otherworld battle, and if Kang didn't arrive, they would be way higher on this list. And like if Madeline Pryor didn't arrive, they would be way, way higher in the list, because they've killed plenty of niche meta. Speeds, even blasts, certain combats, revivers, even like speed immortals or blast immortals. The Fantastic Four can take them down, especially if they have like Brilliant Conquest. And you could pair them with these two. Maybe the Thing has more because of support. Cersei, she's pretty good in this game mode. This is her best game mode. Cersei's Awaken skill is pretty strong, and she has Charm on one of her skills too. Her DPS can be a little bit low, but she's best in like the 3rd spot. She's outdated, but she's still pretty good in this game mode with Destruction. Quicksilver, he also needs the Brilliant Conquest. When he has the Brilliant Conquest and he's starting, he's good. If he's like in the 3rd or the 5th spot, he gets clobbered very quickly. Yeah, he's kind of like hit or miss. The zombies are already kind of outdated, and it sucks because, you know, Hex doesn't generally have super guard break immunity unless you give her greed. Captain Marvel doesn't have super guard break immunity because she needs destruction, and Captain America is away from this team up now. It's heavily relying on Captain Marvel, and I think that while Captain Marvel has one-shot potential, she's not like a go-to to kill some of the meta, even in the niche meta category, like the Fantastic Four or like Thanos. She's kind of like at the lower end of niche meta, but the zombies can still be used, especially with like Wong or Falcon to support them. Hela is generally used quite a bit, but she's really just support only now. Like, she's not really like a support DPS with Destruction, because she doesn't get the counter off enough at all, and she just gets interrupted pretty easily. Definitely good as a tanker, especially with Brilliant Regen. One of the best supports you could pick. She's just on the cusp of being between a useful and niche meta. Now we're going to go on to the useful tier and the last resort tier. These characters you could definitely use. Some are where they should be, and some are a little bit underrated. And then there are some that are kind of like middle of the park, but they can be used. And then there are some that are definitely overrated. And then there's just characters who are just supports. Silver Samurai is definitely in the underrated category. He was a top pick for mutant support, and he's actually really tanky with a Brilliant Conquest. He's almost in this category. He offers a variety of uses and is a great team up for mutants. Jeff is useful for heroes if certain debuff removal supports are debuffed. He could definitely be used, and he's one of the best supports for heroes as well. Wasp gives the 20 seconds of debuff removal, which is super important on characters like Logan and maybe even Carnage. The Warriors of the Sky, who are kind of like an all-in-one package. They're meant for Otherworld battle, and this is their best game mode. They are outdated now. You're very rarely going to see them. Debuff lists are random, guys, so it's good to have some backup PvP characters in your roster. They have a strong awaken skill. They can all do it in unison. It's definitely not useless. It's definitely in a useful category. Ultron, I think he's okay. He has skills from range, but his ignore dodge is low and his DPS is on the lower side. While you can put him like in a variety of different positions, I think that he's kind of like mid in this mode. Sentinel, I don't know, I think he's overrated. He's good against mutants, but only with like a really serious build. If you don't have Brilliant Conquest on him, he just gets knocked around and he dies very, very fast. His best position is the first position, and that's it. Angel is just a debuff removal passive support with this uniform, which is a seasonal. If you have him, you could use him. If you don't have him, it doesn't really matter. Colossus, his passive is always going to be useful in every game mode no matter what, but he just goes out there to die. Maybe he could tank a little, but no matter what, he's useful. You know, I didn't talk about the buffs a lot, but you could put like remove purification buff. You could put a lot of buffs that have increase and decrease damage, like vigor, luck, critical blow, and ignore damage. I wouldn't recommend picking the debuff buffs. Get remove purification, so characters basically get remove all buffs from the target, including removing debuff removal. So it's very essential. Ebony Maw, same thing. He's always going to have some utility. It's only for against universals, so he's more at like the lower end of useful tier, I would think. Hulk is useful. I think that he's actually better than these two. He could start up front. He can have a lot of different CTPs like Conquest, Regen, Egg, maybe even a DPS CTP with a certain list of characters that he could fight, like speeds or like other combats. He can do well. Juggernaut, I think Juggernaut could also do well, but I think that he needs Conquest in this game mode, and I just think that Conquest, because he doesn't have penetration, Conquest is just too risky on him. For him to just be a tanker and offer nothing else is not good enough. Black Swan can be useful, but she's very, very outdated. She's mostly just a tanker. She's good with Brilliant Regen to trigger the board to cancel their skills, so she could be a good plant. Elektra, I think that Elektra just does have some hidden potential. She has invisibility, her DPS is pretty good, but just her being a speed just lets her down. She needs to be first all the time. I think Black Swan can be first or third just to tank, but Elektra needs to be first, and if she's not, she'll just die too quickly and could get interrupted. Punisher has potential, and he could tank with Brilliant Conquest, and he's a combat, so it's more possible. He has skills from range. He has a lot more versatility than one would think, and I think that he's underrated. I think that he's not too bad. The not having a immortal or revive really lets him down though. Corvus, I think that Corvus could actually be used. His DPS is very low, and I think his penetration is also quite low. He's useful, but just on the lower end. Yeah, and then I talked about the Thing and Human Torch. The Thing offers support for the Fantastic Four, but Human Torch just may offer just some tankiness. And then lastly, we got Gore. Gore is useful. It's just he's useful up front where he could maybe get a couple of skills off. He has a weird situation with his revive where he just stands still for like 3 seconds or so. A one-trick pony who dies and then may tank another skill and then just die again. But he's getting a uniform, and I expect him to be either here in this category or like here. We'll see what happens with Gore in the future. Last Resort, I'm not really going to talk about these guys too much. Like Zeus is like untested. You could use Zeus for like tanking and like, you know, for a first spot, but he's not that good. You can use Vision as support for third spot for like Ultron and like Sentinel. Not that good. Daredevil, counters are bad, especially on his speed. He just gets one shot. So you need to give him like Brilliant Conquest or Brilliant Regen, which is very risky. Shang-Chi is just not that good in this game mode. I'm sure he can do something when he's up front, but he's just not enough to really compete with the big boys. Now the thing is, Scarlet Witch, Wong, and Strange have the revive with Hex. It's just they need to be with Hex, and then Scarlet Witch doesn't have Ignore Iframe, so she's not that good. Wong, I believe, does have a counter. He's just support for maybe magic allies like Adam, so he has multiple utilities, but he's kind of like a last resort for zombies, and zombies are kind of outdated. Doctor Strange, he would need to be put up front, but he just gets knocked around because the rage needs to trigger like the enraged proc for him to get super guard break community, and he never gets it. Falcon is just another support for zombies and can tank, but he's not really used often. Sleeper, I think, is used, like he can be used in replace or even with the symbiotes because he offers debuff removal and maybe some level of tankiness. Morgan Le Fay has the revive, gives Universal's debuff removal, but that's it. She has no Ignore Iframe. She can't be used just to take up space if you have nobody else. Nova gives a really good support buff with Brilliant Conquest. I think he can actually be used. It's just nobody wants to give him that because it's very risky. He does have Ignore Iframe, but the DPS could vary. And he's kind of like a real last resort, like if you have nobody else. And then Ancient One, same thing. I think she offers some initial reflect when she's first, and then she can offer support to like elementals. Not that good as an overall character. A character that I forgot to mention that you could try is Kate Bishop. She's untested, but you could put a Brilliant Conquest on her, and she does have a counter that you could utilize, and she may perform similarly to Daredevil. So this has been the tier list for Otherworld Battle. Stay tuned for the next video tier list.